Hello, I'm Scott Hogue, and I can't begin to tell you how happy I am to be able to talk with you and what this really means to me to be able to say a few things to you today in this video. You see, I've made a New Year's resolution, and one of my New Year's resolutions, it involves you. Now, it's totally up to you, of course, whether you want to participate in this or not. That's your decision, but I've got an offer for you, and it's free, and I'd like for you to be part of my New Year's resolution. You see, this year I've resolved, as a New Year's resolution, that I would give away more free material, self-help material, than I have in all my years put together in this business, to help more people than I've ever helped before. Now, that's my goal. More free videos, more free audios, audio downloads, courses, books, coaching even. I want to do that today. That's my goal, to start that today, and that's what this video is about. You see, I started life with a lot against me. I was 16 years old when I started my adult life, and I soon got married. I had a sick wife. My first wife passed away even, and I had children fairly quickly into marriage, and I didn't realize when I was 16 years old that there were laws against me having a job. I couldn't work around equipment, for example. So I couldn't work where that they had a meat slicer. Meat slicer is equipment. I couldn't work in a delicatessen. I couldn't work around alcohol or tobacco. I couldn't pump gas. I couldn't work in a convenience store or a grocery store because of these things. Couldn't be a clerk. But there weren't any laws against me not being hungry. I found out what it meant pretty quickly to be hungry. And I also found out there weren't any laws against me not being able to pay my bills. I remember one time in particular that I held a light bill in my hand as I sat there trying to figure out how to pay this thing. And I worried and held it and worried, how can I pay this light bill to keep them from cutting the electricity off, the lights off on my sick wife and my children here, until I sweated that light bill through till it was wet. But in time I learned that there's principles that you can follow. There's seeds that you can sow. Now, that's a good example. A seed is something small, and you can sow it, and you can get a big result from a small seed. And when you sow a seed of corn, you don't get just one corn grain back, one kernel of corn. You get hundreds back if it works out. Now, sometimes you sow one seed, it doesn't work out, but on the average, and if you sow enough seeds to count on the average, you're going to reap a pretty good crop. You have to sow intelligently. That means you've got to sow these seeds in the right season. You've got to maintain them. You've got to go about it in a certain way. But if you do these things, you're going to succeed. A lot of times today, I think, people are sowing seeds of failure. And that's because the world doesn't work like we think it should. That's the truth. Most people are not succeeding in life because they don't have a really good view of how life really works. And so they're sowing seeds of failure, you might say, and they're reaping failure. Now, if you sow seeds of success, you can't reap failure because you didn't sow those seeds. And that's very profound. Let me go over that again. If you don't sow the seeds of failure, you can't reap failure, because you didn't sow those seeds. Just like when you sow tomatoes, you can't get sour lemons because you didn't sow those seeds. No matter whether your parents were poor or no one loves you or how ugly you think you may be, it doesn't matter. You can't have bad enough luck to sow tomatoes and sow tomato seeds and then get sour lemons out of that. It just doesn't work that way, and no amount of work can make it work that way. So I went out teaching people this. I thought that was a worthy goal, and I put these ads out. And I met with people at McDonald's and Wendy's and Burger King. I've met there. I've met at Arby's, Hardee's, Panera Bread. I've met at Starbucks. I've even met at Walmart. Anywhere you can meet one-on-one with people or in small groups. And I taught them the principles that I was using, principles that turned my finances around, principles that turned my health around. I had some health challenges, stress, and some other things that were going against me. I had some real health challenges that came out of that, and I found out there were principles that you couldn't ignore if you wanted to have good health. And even in relationships, I found out there's ways you should start a relationship. And I found out that you have to maintain relationships, and also that you can't take for granted the people that are important to you. You've got to be there for them, and they'll be there for you. But you've got to go about these things in a certain way. So I taught that, and it was a beautiful failure because I added to people's knowledge, but it didn't change their actions. And it didn't change their lives without changing their actions. So I went back to the drawing board, and I took quite a few courses on human behavior. Some were of a benefit, some weren't. I got another library full of books, you might say, and my wife makes a joke every now and then that the Smithsonian is called again. They want to borrow some more books because I have quite a library of books. And that was before even they came out with the e-books. And now I've got all these e-books now. But then I even took courses on hypnosis, and that was very helpful in some of those courses, but I still wasn't satisfied. I went out and experimented on people again, and I'd make it a point that every day when I go out to eat, I would try to pick up a soft drink or just a glass of tea somewhere at a restaurant, and I would say things to people that were working there, and I would see what their response was. And could I shift their response? Could I change their outlook? Could I help them have a more positive outlook in the world, a more positive approach, using the very same resources that they had? And so then I went out and I put the ads out again. I started meeting one-on-one. I started meeting in groups, and then we had dramatic results. And I even came up with a 6-month course. I called the 3 Steps to Wealth. But that was so long, it made it difficult for people to go through that whole process. And so then I cut it down. I had a 3-month course, and then even got a 1-day change course now that we do now, that we've refined this. I've had a lot of people that have helped me, a lot of people that have participated. So what I'm offering is for you to be part of my New Year's resolution. Maybe you're ready for this. Maybe you're ready to change your life. When we start out in life, we've got a lot of goals, a lot of big ideas. I know I did. And then something comes along and we start to settle. It may be the student loan debt, or maybe a baby comes along. Maybe it's a health problem. Maybe your parents need you to go back home and take care of them. There's all kinds of things that can come along, and they can get us off track and get us to stop thinking about the dreams that we had. And so then you've got these dreams, these high dreams that we had, and what we expected and desired out of life, but then we've got what we settle for, and there's a gap in that. And we call that gap the misery gap. And a lot of people live in that misery gap. And if you live in that misery gap long enough, then it becomes sort of a dead zone, because you get dead to those feelings, those exciting feelings that you had about living life. And there's ways to get out of the dead zone very quickly. If you've got some exciting goals, then you're going to want to live that exciting life. And let me tell you, I know you know. Deep inside, you know you can do this. There's things already you're doing that make positive changes in your life. So if you just quit doing them, your life would get worse. If you quit setting the alarm, going to work, if you quit eating, if you quit talking to people, all these things are making positive changes in your life by doing them. If you quit doing them, then your life would quickly become much worse. So I'm telling you that there's so many more things that you can do, and they're simple things that start to make big changes. Like sowing little seeds can bring big crops in, and they'll make big changes in your lives if you'll just follow them, if you'll just give it a chance. So that's what I'm asking. Are you ready to get out of the misery zone? Are you ready to get out of that dead zone? Are you ready to be excited again about life and to get the things you want? Are you ready to add to the quality of life of other people? Why do we have friends? Why do we have loved ones? It amplifies the life experience. What's a sunset with one person? Well, it's something. It certainly is. I've enjoyed sunsets by myself and sunrises, but when you've got someone else to share that with, then that amplifies the experience. There's so much in life. And what about your family, your friends? What about your goals? Are you ready? Are you ready to go back and pick up the track where you got off track? Are you ready to get back on that trail? If you are, then start right where you are. See, that's why I'm in front of my wife's china cabinet. I didn't go out and buy a $25,000 video camera and set up a studio. I've got an audio studio that we do that type of thing with, but I wanted to prove to people that you need to start right where you are. And this morning I sat down at this table. This is a dining room table to do a little paperwork, and I had my tablet and I opened it up. And I said, I'm going to start right here on that New Year's resolution. You have to take action. It's wonderful to have a goal. It's wonderful to make a resolution, but you have to take action. Action is like driving a stake in the ground. We can count on this. We're not going to be tossed around. We're not going to go backwards. Right here's where we're starting. And I started right here today, right in front of this china cabinet. And these videos you're going to see in the future, there's no telling where I'll be. I may be in the van, wherever I am. I'm not going to use an excuse anymore to do these things by saying that, well, I don't have time to go in the studio. I don't have time to sit down and write out a script. I'm just going to do it off the cuff. But my goal is to reach more people and to help more people with this, because, my life's limited. And I want to look back at my life and say, I did the things I could do to help others, because I know what it meant to me when people helped me. And it made all the difference. There were a few people along the way that just made a tremendous difference in my life. And I'll never forget them. And I'd like to pass that on. So the question is, are you ready to change your life? That's the thing. You have to make the decision. You've got the ability. You've got the resources. We just need to get those organized in a little bit more of a productive way. And you just need a little coaching, and we can do that. So the test is, if you're ready, come back to this channel for the next video. Till then, God bless.